Hello once again, thanks for dropping by the channel. Hope you're enjoying the content. If you like what you're seeing, if you enjoy the channel, please hit subscribe. Let's try and help support this. Let's keep it going. Let's get into today's rant, we'll say, as opposed to subject. Because some of you may know I hit 1,000 subscribers the other day. I've been very happy since then. And we obviously had the WBC, what's it called? Convention, we'll say, whatever it's kind of called. And they've made some just decisions that have they've really made me scratch my head and just think, what is the point? What is the point with WBC? And these titles in boxing, like, what are they anymore? Because I think back to this scene in The Simpsons. If you ever seen the scene from the early 90s when Homer Simpson loses his couch, and he's in Moe's bar sitting next to Joe Frazier, and Joe Frazier says, you lost your couch, I lost the heavyweight championship. And in the 90s, Homer Simpson turns around and goes, oh, well, there's 3 of them. How many are there now? 2019, at this stage. We've got regular champion, interim champion, diamond champion, franchise champion, Mayan champion, silver champion. Oh, fuck me. International champion. The list just goes on and on and on. And now we have champions of other sanctioning bodies being ranked in the WBC sanctioning bodies, which some people say it's a good thing because, it means unifications. I get that. But if you're willing to step aside for unifications anyway, what's the point in just ranking the fighters who have fought in the eliminators to earn that position? Why rank guys who've not fought in WBC sanctioned bout? Because you're going to be giving them a shot at the title anyway. In the most part anyway, they're going to get a shot at the title. So why not just let them, just have it instead of ranking them, in your whatever. Let them have it, right? Then we have the word that Vasily Lomachenko has been elevated to franchise champion. So along with Canelo in the WBC, he will get elevated to franchise champion. And this to me is just part and parcel of why sanctioning bodies like the WBC and the other ones don't want undisputed. They don't want undisputed. They want to have as many titles as they can knocking around so they can charge sanction fees. As I said, if you go back to the early 80s to the mid 70s, back when boxing had the 15 rounders. 15 rounders were only title fights. Only title fights. For the most part, I think there might have been 1 or 2 exceptions, but for the most part, 15 rounders were title fights. And you had the 12 rounders as non-title fights. So your 12 rounders would be just 2 top contenders meeting, and that was a 12 rounder. There was no international. There was no East meets West title on the line. There was none of these bullshit titles that they have now. I used to count the regular title, the WBC or WBA regular title, as a title. No, it's about WBC, but we'll bring them into it because they're not much better. I used to count that as a world. I used to kind of say, well, okay, if you want to count that as a world title, you can. Technically, I would count it. Whereas now it's just getting to the stage, if there's so goddamn many, what's the point in counting it? You may as well just have that super title and that's your world title. Because if you have a regular, then like any Joe-so can claim to be world champion. It's just gone ridiculous. And it's the way it's gone with these sanctioned bodies. Dylan White, they've announced that he won't get his mandatory shot until 2020. I mean, what the fuck, like? What the fuck? And you're obviously going to talk about fighters maybe in the meantime. The winner of AJ Ruiz, they're probably going to vacate one of their titles. What if Deontay Wilder fights Luis Ortiz, fights Tyson Fury, and then decides, do you know what? Kubrat Pulev or, Alexander Usyk or someone has a belt. I think I could beat them. Let's try and unify. He gets pushed out again because, WBC don't give a shit. They'll put, or even worse than that, they'll make Wilder franchise champion. And then where are we? We're just a million miles away off undisputed. I've criticised Al Heyman a lot on this channel, but what he was trying to do in the early days of PBC was what I like. He was actually trying to almost make the sanctioned bodies obsolete, have his own PBC title, a bit like what Dana White's done with the UFC. So as we know with the UFC, there's places like Bellator, places like that, but the UFC is it's not recognised necessarily, but that's the main one. So you're thought of that the best fighters, not always, but for the most part, the best fighters are in the UFC. so they're fighting for their title. Okay, and that's kind of what Al Heyman wanted to do. Obviously, boxing, it's a bit different. You know, it is a bit different, and you know, promoters, there's a lot more promoters, there's a lot more kind of high things at stake. So with boxing, you couldn't get it done, but you know, it really does show just how just silly these sanctioning bodies are with these things. And like, boxing's not the only sport that has more than one sanctioning body, but if you look at other sports that have more than one sanctioning body, for the most part, there's one head and shoulders above everybody, and that's it. And they don't start, you know, playing around. Like a sport that I like other than boxing is darts. For some of you who don't know, darts have two sanctioning bodies. They have two world champions. They have the BDO, and then they have the PDC. So the BDO is pub darts. Basically, they play darts in these small little leisure centres, you know, in these hotels, and they have a world champion every year from the lakeside. I think it's in Surrey is where the lakeside is. Now they get 100 grand if they win that. Whereas the PDC, you're playing in arenas, you know, big arenas like the O2, like the MEN, places like that. Their world championship, again, every year, they get something like 500k. Like, the money is just so vast between the two sanctioning bodies. No one really does recognise the BDO as it's almost thought of as the amateur game, and the PDC is the pro. That's how it's thought of. So even though there's two people claiming to be world champion, we know there's only really one, Michael Van Gerwen. So that's kind of how the darts do it. But with boxing, it's ludicrous. It's absolutely fucking ludicrous. And I seen Devin Haney where he said on Twitter that he's like the youngest world champion, and then a guy with, you know, steam coming out of his ears. He doesn't want to win a world title like that. He wanted Lomachenko. He wanted to go and fight for that title against the best, and he's just, I think if I'm not mistaken, they're emailed to tell him that they're, you know, elevated the full champion. Who wants to win a title like that? Who wants to just check their email and go, I'm world champion, I've done fucking nothing? And this isn't a shot against Devin Haney. I like Devin Haney. He's like, I've done fucking nothing, I've got a world title. Your first world title, you want to win that in the ring. You want to remember it. Like, you can only imagine what it must feel like to win that title then and there in the ring, be given it to you, you know, earned. An email? Do you really want that? So the WBC, something really does need to change. You know, the WBO and the IBF, I know WBO gets a bit of credit, but they are the two best. You know, they're the two titles, and that's one of the reasons why I get annoyed with Al Heyman, because he doesn't recognise the WBO. They aren't as bad as the other two. Seriously, they're a decent sanctioning body. You know, yeah, they might be a bit favourable towards, you know, Al Heyman, Bob Arum, but that's not to say if Al Heyman didn't start, you know, pumping a bit more sanctioning fees into them, or maybe making his fighters fight for more titles, they might favour him too. So, you know, it's hard to, it's just ridiculous. Like, it really is absurd. And, you know, WBC, they're the oldest, and you'd think they'd be the smartest, but they're clearly not, you know. And I watched Ade's video on this, and he said that they basically sanctioned Amir Khan versus Billy Dib for WBC, you know, ranked title. How can you rank a fight, like a little joke fight like that, against a guy, a career super featherweight, against a welterweight, and then rank a title, a guy who was retired? How the fuck can you do that? That's just stupid. So, you know, rant over for today. Those are my thoughts on this. Let me know what you think down below. WBC, are they just full of shit, or, you know, do you think we need more titles? Do we really? Let me know what you think down below. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and as always, I will talk to you after.